A single photograph started the fire, a candid, long-forgotten snapshot posted by a film crew member from a project shot nearly 15 years ago. In the image, Jamie Dornan and Sienna Miller stood slightly apart from everyone else, sharing an expression so private, so charged, that the internet froze the moment it resurfaced. It wasn't romantic, but it wasn't platonic either. It was something in between, something unspoken. Within hours, fans began asking the same electrifying question. What really happened between Jamie Dornan and Sienna Miller? People who had followed both actors for years knew their paths had crossed more often than the public realized. They attended the same industry parties, moved within the same creative circles, and even shared several fashion campaigns early in their careers. Yet despite the proximity, neither had ever spoken openly about each other. That silence only deepened the intrigue. Hollywood thrives on rumor, but this was different. This felt like a hidden chapter now forcing its way back into the spotlight. One producer from a charity gala remembered a moment that now seemed eerily meaningful. Jamie and Sienna had arrived separately, but spent nearly the entire evening in quiet corners, deep in conversation. Witnesses said there was an unusual ease between them, an almost magnetic familiarity that didn't match their, barely acquaintances, public narrative. When someone tried to take a picture, Jamie gently stepped aside, blocking the view. At the time, no one thought much of it. Today, that memory feels like a puzzle piece finally snapping into place. The rumors intensified when another insider recalled a night at a private after-party in Soho. According to this source, Sienna arrived looking visibly upset after a difficult interview earlier that day. Jamie, who had been standing near the bar, noticed her immediately and walked over without hesitation. They spoke for nearly an hour, leaning against a dimly lit wall, their voices low but their expressions unmistakably emotional. At one point, Sienna laughed through tears, resting her hand lightly on Jamie's arm. Moments later, they slipped into the VIP lounge together, and no one saw them again until the party ended. A hotel staff member, speaking anonymously, shared an even more curious detail. On two separate nights during that same period, Jamie and Sienna were reportedly seen entering the hotel lobby minutes apart, both wearing hats pulled low. They weren't holding hands, they weren't flirting, but there was a tension in the air, a quiet urgency that hinted at unfinished conversations. It wasn't scandalous, the staff member said, but it wasn't nothing either. Those words alone set off a frenzy of speculation across social media. Jamie himself added fuel to the fire years later, unintentionally, during a press interview. When asked which actors had surprised him most in person, he mentioned Sienna and described her as someone whose energy stays with you longer than you expect. The interviewer laughed it off, but Jamie's tone wasn't casual. It was reflective, almost vulnerable, as if he had unlocked a memory he hadn't planned to revisit. Fans clipped the moment immediately, convinced he was hinting at something deeper. But the most shocking twist came from a leaked fragment of an old email exchanged between two people in the film industry. The message mentioned a quiet connection between Jamie and Sienna during a particularly turbulent year for both actors. It described nights spent talking until sunrise, moments of emotional honesty, and a closeness that blurred the lines between friendship and something more. The email didn't accuse them of anything scandalous, quite the opposite. It suggested they had been two people leaning on each other at a time when their personal lives were falling apart. Suddenly, the narrative shifted. This wasn't just curiosity, or gossip, or fan fiction. There was genuine emotional history hiding in the shadows, something both actors had chosen to protect for years. Their silence now felt intentional, even protective, as if acknowledging what happened would expose a part of themselves they weren't ready to share with the world. As the story gained traction, fans couldn't stop asking. Were Jamie and Sienna ever more than friends? Did something almost happen, but never quite cross the line? Or did they share a moment they both agreed to bury? The resurfaced photo, the recollections from industry insiders, the leaked message. Each piece painted a picture of two people whose connection had once burned quietly but intensely beneath the surface of their rising careers. And as speculation reached a fever pitch, a chilling question emerged across every comment thread and headline. If this is only what has leaked, what deeper truth are Jamie and Sienna still keeping hidden? When Sienna Miller finally broke her silence, it wasn't through a public statement or a dramatic interview. It happened during a quiet moment backstage at a film festival when a reporter casually mentioned Jamie's name. Sienna paused mid-step, her smile softening into something far more complex, not annoyance, not discomfort, but an emotion that flickered like recognition. She simply replied, "Some people stay a part of your story, even if no one ever knows how." That single sentence sent the internet into a full meltdown. Fans and media outlets immediately began dissecting her tone, her expression, even the hesitation before she spoke. Some believed she sounded nostalgic, while others argued she was holding back something deeper. Analysts on entertainment podcasts replayed the clip in slow motion, pointing out every subtle shift in her face. It wasn't confirmation of anything scandalous, but it wasn't denial either. It was the gray area where truth tends to hide. Meanwhile, sources close to Jamie revealed he had been equally caught off guard by the sudden revival of the rumor. He hadn't expected the old photograph or the leaked email to resurface, nor the emotional waves that followed. One insider said Jamie reacted with a rare seriousness when asked privately about Sienna, describing her as someone who understood a version of me nobody else did. That confession, though never meant for the public, spread swiftly. It added an entirely new layer to the story, one that felt painfully intimate. More whispers emerged from people who had worked on film sets and attended private industry gatherings with both actors. One stylist recalled a night when Jamie and Sienna spent almost an hour talking on a balcony overlooking the Thames after a photo shoot. The stylist said their conversation looked intense but gentle, like two people navigating an emotional landscape only they understood. When the group left, Sienna remained quiet, lost in thought, while Jamie lingered behind as if reluctant to step away from the moment. Details like these only deepened the mystery. Then came the revelation that shook everything. A former assistant claimed Sienna once confided that Jamie had been a grounding presence during one of the most turbulent chapters of her career. She didn't elaborate, but the timing lined up with a period when Sienna faced intense media scrutiny and personal upheaval. According to the assistant, Jamie had helped her through quiet conversations, long walks after events, and moments where she needed someone who wouldn't judge or exploit her vulnerability. The assistant insisted nothing inappropriate happened, but admitted the connection had been emotionally charged. As speculation built, fans began to wonder whether Jamie and Sienna had ever discussed the rumors between them. That answer arrived unexpectedly when a clip resurfaced from an old interview where Sienna was asked about actors she admired personally. She hesitated, smiled faintly, and said, "There are people who come into your life at the right moment, and you never forget the kindness." The interviewer didn't push further, but today, that sentence feels heavily pointed, as though it had been meant for someone specific. Hollywood panelists soon weighed in, offering theories about how emotional bonds can form quickly under the pressure of fame. They argued that two actors experiencing parallel chaos, rising careers, relentless press, personal struggles, often find solace in each other in ways outsiders cannot understand. As discussions spread, a new narrative emerged. Maybe Jamie and Sienna's connection wasn't romantic scandal, but a rare emotional refuge in a world built on superficiality. Something real, something delicate, something worth protecting. However, the story took an unexpected turn when a journalist uncovered a private scheduling document from a film event years earlier. The record showed Jamie and Sienna had requested their interviews only 10 minutes apart, and left the venue within the same 3-minute window. There were no photos of them leaving together, no dramatic exits, but the timing hinted at a coordinated choice, intentionally avoiding cameras while still sharing space. That detail resurrected the question everyone was afraid to ask aloud. Were they protecting themselves from rumors, or protecting something more? A friend close to Jamie added yet another piece to the puzzle. She revealed that Jamie had once described Sienna as a mirror during a time I didn't understand myself. The wording felt heavy, raw, deeply emotional. The kind of thing one says only about someone who impacted them profoundly. She insisted Jamie never spoke negatively about Sienna, nor tried to downplay their connection, even in private. Instead, he spoke with a kind of gentle respect that suggested something unresolved lingered beneath the surface. By now, the internet was divided. Some insisted Jamie and Sienna had shared a quiet, intense bond that never crossed the line into romance. Others believed their chemistry was too palpable, too layered, too emotionally charged for nothing to have happened. But one undeniable truth emerged. Whatever existed between them had been real, perhaps fleeting, perhaps unspoken, perhaps unfinished, but real nonetheless. The final spark came when Sienna attended a premiere a week later. As she walked the red carpet, a reporter boldly asked whether she and Jamie had shared anything more than friendship in the past. Sienna paused, the cameras flashing around her like strobe lights of truth and temptation. She then gave a small, enigmatic smile and replied, "Some stories aren't meant to be told, but they're also never forgotten." Her words left the world breathless. And suddenly, the question wasn't whether something happened, but how much of it they chose to keep for themselves.